Well, we made it to the weekend, folks, and what a wild week it was. We had an election Monday night, and then the fallout of everything that happened. Everyone's trying to wrap their heads around what in the world happened. The Conservatives lost, Poilievre lost his seat, and then an MP stepped down from his seat in Alberta so that Poilievre could slide in and try to get a by-election going. And Carney said, I'll let him do that. He can go ahead. We will get that by-election done as soon as possible so that he can get a seat in the House of Commons. And everyone's just kind of
That's
like,
surprising.
what in the world is going on? I'm sure you're not alone. Me and Reg jumped on last night. Reg took the first half hour to talk about some very important issues and what things are going on. And then I was able to jump on. We were able to talk more about Pierre losing a seat, Pierre going to Alberta and getting a safer seat, trying to get back in the House of Commons. Should Poilievre stay on as leader? Like, we talked about it all last night. And then, of course, the talk was around the Mark Carney opening press conference as him as the official elected prime minister. And admittedly, it left a lot of people scratching their heads, especially those on the right, because it was almost the opposite of everything that he has ever believed in. It was the opposite of everything he's ever written about in his books, that he was all of a sudden taking a conservative approach, essentially going word for word of the Pierre Poilievre platform through the election. And people were just like, could it be all that bad? Maybe Mark Carney will actually be good. We are going to discuss all that today. But before we do that, please take the time, like, share, and subscribe. We love all of you. It really helps the channel to grow, especially as we are continuing to navigate these choppy waters in our current country and our current political circumstances, and trying to keep you informed of what is really going on that the mainstream won't tell you. Now let's get into the story, shall we? So as I said, Mark Carney gave his opening address, and he hit some very significant points that has been huge pain points for the Canadian population. One of which he talked about how he's looking to transform the economy and help the country be better again from an economic perspective. 2, that he's going to fight crime and secure the border. 3 is that he's going to be looking to cap immigration. And then 4, that he will not, and I repeat, will not be working with the NDP to get things passed. So when you hear all those things at first glance, you're just like, what is going on?
Yeah,
what's his angle here? What is currently happening? And that's what we're going to talk about today, because I have to admit, a Mark Carney prime ministerial term is going to be vastly different from a Justin Trudeau. What have we been saying from the beginning? Mark Carney is a smarter version of Justin Trudeau. They still believe in the same things. Mark Carney is just going to be a lot more cunning with how he goes about them.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, like smarter for sure, but I think he's more dangerous as a businessman than an investor. And with his previous experience, I don't know. I still have that feeling that he's acting in his best self-interest rather than the self-interest of Canadians. I mean, interest of Canadians, right? But yeah, we'll see. Let's give this video a chance.
So he's going to say what he needs to say to bring everyone's defenses down, and then slowly bring in net zero policies through the back door without people really realizing it and people who are asleep at the wheel. Right now, today, his opening press conference, he's actually trying to be a politician, a pre-Trump politician. What do I mean by that? Well, remember, politics were really dry. People would, we'd focus on the election for a month or two, and then we'd go on our merry ways and let the politicians do what they do. We ignore them forever, and then we don't care about them until another 4 years comes around. We have to vote for them again. That's what politics used to be like. Now,
yeah, that's what politics used to be when we didn't face existential crisis, right? Like, I remember it's the same everywhere, not just Canada, but like even in Czech Republic, in Europe, like you always complain about government, about politics, but in the end, it doesn't really affect you as much, right? Like maybe you're gonna go eat out one less time per month. Maybe you're not gonna eat out 4 times a month, or you're gonna eat out 3 times a month. Or if you're like me, lazy to cook, instead of, 7 times a month, 6 times a month. But you get the point, right? However, what I've been seeing here in Canada is that it's the politics got so bad in the government that we're literally in an existential crisis. And let me say this example. So everyone's complaining about housing affordability, right? And some people think that once you buy the house, that's it. That's it. You're done. You solved all your issues. But that's not really true. Like I bought a house in 2022 for $350K, obviously mortgage and everything, right? made some mistakes, didn't fix the rate. But whatever, that doesn't matter. Since then, the house prices went up. So the price of my house or the value of my house went higher, which would be great, right? Even though I didn't do any renovations or anything. But yeah, it's always good when you own something that actually has higher value. Until you have to renew your insurance for the house. And out of nowhere, it's 3 times as expensive. Because not only did my house increase the value without me improving actually the quality of the house, so it's kind of like, yeah, on the paper it's good, well, but it didn't help me at all. But also the average price of the house grew. So now the average price for rebuilding the house, if something happens, right? It's more than a double for what I actually paid. So my insurance payment tripled. And it's ridiculous, right? And like I always say, like it doesn't end by buying a house. Like unfortunately, the first-time home buyers don't realize all of the cost that comes with owning the house. Like it's great to own your house, but it's freaking stressful. And like I said, this government or the liberal government didn't help it at all. And in those 3 years, we went from bad situation to literally existential crisis. And I've never seen it anywhere else around the world. Like not in my home country, not in the Europe. And yeah, it's crazy.
Now, since Trump came around, politics has turned in from being a dry sport to now being a key piece of entertainment in our pop culture, both in America, which has always been, but even more so in America. That culture has been transitioned into Canada. So people are a lot more vigilant. People are a lot more interested in what is happening. That's why we're seeing shows like this grow so much. It's because people are locked in more than ever about what is going on in politics.
I don't know if I trust that. If that was true, we would have conservative government and not the liberals, because obviously majority of the voters didn't vote while being well informed. It was, I'm sorry, but it was uneducated vote. Like, don't tell me that half of the voters would be okay with Mark Carney not admitting his assets. Like all of other leaders like came clean and literally went like, this is what I own, these are my assets. But Mark Carney refused it. Like that's one of the things I don't understand how it can be even legal. Like we don't know where all of his investments are, right? And we know Brookfield invested in a lot of green energy projects in Canada. So now everything Mark Carney does that's going to be connected to net zero, how do we know he doesn't do it in his own self-interest?
And I believe what we're seeing here is Mark Carney wants to make politics boring again, to lull us to sleep so that when the time comes, he can finally bring stuff in that people aren't going to really notice. And then boom, before you know it, policies are going to have come in that weren't beneficial to Canadians, and we're going to be able to do nothing about it. It is fascinating, but also I'll show you what I mean, and we'll start off with the first thing. First off, he talks about getting a mandate. He starts about getting a mandate and how he's committed to transforming the economy.
As I've been clear since day one of my leadership campaign in January, I'm in politics to do big things, not to be something. And now that Canadians have honored me with a mandate to bring about big changes quickly, I will work relentlessly to fulfill that trust. As I stressed on election night, I am committed to working with others, governing as a team in cabinet and caucus, and working constructively across parties in Parliament, working in real partnership with provinces, territories, and Indigenous peoples, and bringing together labor, business, and civil society to advance the nation-building investments that will transform our economy.
Even the first part of that should concern you.
Wouldn't it be Indigenous people? I thought it doesn't have like Indigenous peoples. sounds weird, but don't take my word for it. I'm immigrant, right? What do I know? But honestly, I think that's just who Mark Carney is. I think he's just a boring, like, old school type of politician, right? And that, well, he's not politician, but you know what I mean. Like that's he's not a showman. He's not a businessman like Trump. Like, yes, he is businessman, but he doesn't need to be emotional. So I like. Definitely this guy's right. He's gonna try to sneak in some bills and laws that won't be in the best interest of Canadians. Like, we don't even need to bet on it. Like, it's gonna happen, right? But I don't think he's playing any theater. He's just this boring guy. But yeah, I don't understand why he reads it from paper. Like, I understand screen reader or something like that, right? That would look more professional. But again, like, it's not a speech where you're giving statistics or anything. Like, come on, dude, at least memorize it. Speak from your heart. I know I'm kind of naive here. Well, I mean, speak from his heart, since he has 3 passports. He must be careful about which country he's talking, right? Because
I have received a mandate to do big things. I only came into politics to do big things, not just to be something. The problem is, Mark Carney, it's hard to do big things when you have a minority government. And when you have a minority government, that isn't a mandate. I hate to say it. Yes, your party may have received 8.5, 8.6 million votes, biggest in Canadian history. But do you know what also happened? Conservatives also received 8.1 million votes, which is also the second largest in Canadian history. So it's not exactly a mandate. People are not on board with this, not on board with you. They don't buy it. And so whatever, I talked about this earlier on this week. Mark Carney's going to be pushing it, media's going to be pushing it, and you're going to see it more and more. Well, Mark Carney's got a mandate. He can do whatever he wants, even though he has a minority government. 3 seats short of a majority. Who cares? It's still a minority government. You do not have a mandate. You will have to work with others, though, which I appreciate him saying there, but there is no mandate. Don't get it twisted. And again, it's all about breaking down the nuance of what he is saying. And that's what we're going to do, continue on here. Before we continue, though, I would suggest going to watch Moose on Loose's video from this morning, where he breaks down the relationship between Donald Trump and Mark Carney, and he expands on the research that both him and we did a couple months ago about his connection to Jared Kushner and the building that was for sale in New York City, and how Brookfield helped facilitate that sale as a favor. It was kind of weird. Well, David then built on that and released that this morning, which was fantastic work. So go ahead and watch that in addition to this, because I think it all kind of brings it all, gives you a fuller picture of what we're currently dealing with right now in our country. But it's the next thing. Talking about fighting crime. Got people scratching their heads like, what is going on? What is this plan here? They talk about fighting crime, and they only really talked about fighting crime during the election.
Oh, is it going to be 3 strike you're out?
And clamping down on law-abiding gun owners. Like, that was them talking about fighting crime. He expands on that a little more, which is a little different than what he talked about in the campaign, which was interesting.
My government will focus on keeping Canada secure as a sovereign nation and Canadians safe in their communities. We'll build a stronger Canadian armed forces to protect Canadians, defend our sovereignty, and support our allies. We'll strengthen our border security with 1,000 more CBSA officers, as well as scores of dog teams, drones, and scanners to fight the traffic of guns and drugs. We'll strengthen Canadian law enforcement by hiring 1,000 more RCMP officers and giving law enforcement more tools to fight crime. We will toughen the criminal code and bail laws for those threatening the safety of Canadians, including making bail harder to get for those charged with stealing cars, with home invasion, human trafficking, and smuggling.
Was that not word for word of what you heard from Pierre Poilievre through the campaign? We're going to bolster our borders, add scanners, increase our specialty teams.
I don't know if you guys watched Jordan Peterson reaction to Mark Carney getting elected, but he was talking about Mark Carney's book, and most of his ideology and ideas in general are actually not his own. He just took it over from someone else. He has like 3 big ideas, and all of them come from someone else. And he doesn't really have a solution for them or anything like that. So this reminds me what Jordan Peterson was talking about, that Mark Carney is just, I don't want to say stealing, but like taking someone else's ideas and pretend that it's his own program idea. Yeah, like in this case, yeah, that's his own goal, or I don't know. It's kind of ridiculous, and it's funny to hear it here after I watched the Jordan Peterson interview this morning. It's exactly what he said and what Mark Carney did in his book, and now he's doing it with Pierre Poilievre. I mean, don't get me wrong, if he's honest about it and if that's what he's planning to do, that's good. I'm not going to complain about that, right? But we'll see how he's going to execute it. Like, is it taxpayers going to pay more? Like, are our taxes going to go higher? Are we going to send even more money outside of the country? Like, these are all the questions, right? Because we had a liberal government for past 10 years, and this is all that already kind of happened. Like, the taxpayers paid for everything, even for the stuff that wasn't going on in Canada.
Increase our CBSA agents. We are going to look to clamp down on crime, clamp down on the theft, clamp down on the trafficking. Like, all of it, that was word for word Pierre Poilievre's platform. You didn't hear a dang thing Mark Carney saying during the campaign. So this was like, whoa, where is this coming from? This is left field, especially. He almost scoffed at the idea during the campaign. Almost scoffed at the idea leading into this, that like this wasn't a real issue. It's not really going on. Like, he barely talked about the fentanyl issues, barely talked about the trafficking issues. All of a sudden now he's talking about it, now he's going to solve it. What is really going on here? Why is this? And that's why I'm saying you cannot allow him to take down your guard, because everything he's been talking about was the opposite to what he's saying during this address. So what is the long-term goal here for Mark Carney? This next piece of the address where he talks about immigration, and this was also interesting.
We will return our immigration to sustainable levels by capping the total number of temporary workers and international students at less than 5% of Canada's population by the end of 2027. That's a sharp drop from the recent high of 7.3%, and this will help ease strains on housing, on public infrastructure, and social services. At the same time, we will work to attract the best talent in the world to build our economy.
We are looking to cap immigration and bring it down to sustainable levels so that housing and our infrastructure can catch up.
Yeah,
I mean, cool. It's great to hear.
Yeah.
What's frustrating about this, though, is we were being literally called racist for suggesting such a thing even 2 months ago. But now Mark Carney says it, oh, I guess it's not racist anymore. And if you even look into what he actually says, we're going to make sure that temporary foreign workers and international students don't cap any more than 5% of our Canadian population. He didn't even talk about immigration. He talked about temporary foreign workers and international students, not immigration, and not getting any higher than 5% and dropping it below 5% of our population. Well, if you do that math, I don't know, that's still 2 million people. Is that really solving the issue? So first of all, he doesn't even deal with the actual immigration issue. He just talks about temporary foreign workers and international students, but doesn't talk about immigration. And don't worry, we're gonna make sure it stays below 5%, which is 2 million people a year. Is that per year? Is that overall? Is it like we'll always make sure that there's no more than 5% that make up our country?
Yeah, I was thinking the same, but from his rhetoric, I would say that it's going to be by the year 2027. So I would expect that 2027 we're going to have only 2 million temporary workers and students in Canada, right? But again, he's saying that it should help with our housing crisis. Like, temporary workers, I don't think they're really buying the houses over here. Yes, they're renting, and obviously that still contributes into the housing crisis, right? But like, what about the Canadian dream of owning the house? Like, that's the biggest issue. I don't think it's going to help too much.
Like, what are we accepting for it? Like, there's not a whole lot of clarity around this, especially when you have one of his advisors that is a part of the Century Initiative that Mark Carney has believed in and given lip service to, and so much has been a part of. What is the actual plan? This shouldn't settle you. It should be unsettling to you because there's a lack of clarity. You don't know where it's going, and you don't fully understand it. So what is the actual plan? Again, he gave a lot of lip service to conservative platform ideas, conservative policy ideas, but we don't actually know what he's going to do. Quite frankly, again, as we said, they're going to come back here mid-May. They're only going to be in the House of Commons for about 20 days, and then they're on summer break. We won't see them again till the fall. So this, I believe, this is just speculation, that this is a plan to make sure people don't get angry. People aren't mad going into the break, so they don't have a firestorm to deal with when they get back. He's trying to tamper emotions, try to chill people out, and trying to make politics boring again, so to make it easier for him to make moves in the future. He even did so much as to calm down the nerves around the NDP and the Liberals teaming up to get things done. And this was a fast...
My guess is, again, uneducated guess, just my opinion, all of this with Mark Carney kind of agreeing with conservative plans is supposed to calm down Alberta as well, because I think there's a real risk of Alberta separating from Canada, and that would be just disastrous for the rest of the Canada. Like, I think if Alberta managed to separate, BC is going to be the next, Sask is going to be the next, Quebec, well, yeah, they're threatening with it, but they're receiving so much money from exactly Alberta and the rest of the Canada that they can't separate. Like, come on, that's unrealistic. It's just dogs barking and that's it. It's a dog who barks but don't bite. Like, it's not gonna happen. But I think what Mark Carney is trying to accomplish is give conservatives this little wind, so Alberta calms down, start thinking, oh, maybe it's not going to be so bad. Maybe we can stay in Canada. And then, like gentleman said, after the summer break, he's going to bring the carbon tax and all of that stuff. And people, especially in Alberta, they won't be as emotional as they're now, right? Because now it's like... It feels like everything's doomed. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I live in Alberta, and people are pissed about Liberals getting elected. And you saw Danielle Smith; she's pissed as well. And if she's not gonna be able to, like, deal with Ottawa, like, the chances of Alberta separating are really high. So unless Ottawa stops putting their nose in our business and literally blocking us from prosperity, Alberta's gonna go. And yeah, so that's what Mark Carney's doing, that's my opinion. Like, he's just trying to calm us down, and then in 2 months he's gonna bring it on.
Fascinating question and a fascinating answer.
Mr. Carney, will you be pursuing a formal governing pact of any kind with the NDP?
No. Short answer, no.
Ooh.
And why not?
Why? That's my response. Is we campaigned on a very clear set of objectives, very clear policies to back those up, and we received the highest number of votes in Canadian history. Yes, it is not quite a majority, but highest number of votes. As I said moments ago, majorities in 7 of the 10 provinces, seats in all the provinces, highest vote totals and deputy counts in a number of those provinces. And it's also a style of governing as well, which is, in order to do what we need to do as a country, we will need to work in partnership with all the provinces, with Indigenous peoples. Yes, obviously, by definition in Parliament, we will need to get majority support to pass legislation. But this is legislation that Canadians, or at least we will be putting forth legislation that's consistent with our platform and consistent with the requirements of the time. And I will remind that it's not just words. We are in a crisis. If you look at the terrible manifestation of that today in Oshawa for the GM workers, 2,000 GM workers, and I'll just express my deepest sympathy for them. And
Not going to work out a pact with the NDP. We're going to work with everybody. We're going to make sure legislation gets passed. We're going to make sure that we cooperatively move things forward. Because guess what, guys? We're in a crisis. He's laying the foundation where I'm going to have to make moves to make sure everyone's happy, to make sure that people's jobs get saved. I'm going to make sure that we're going to have to make some sweeping moves to make sure that we get done what we need to get done because we're in a crisis. At first glance, what he said here in this press conference would be kind of easing the tensions a bit. But when you actually listen, and you focus on the words, it's actually going to leaving more questions than answers, leading you to have to really keep a focus on what they do moving forward. You're going to have to keep an eye out for articles like this, where majority of Canadians say misinformation affected a federal election. More than 3/4 of Canadians believe misinformation had an impact on the outcome of the federal election, a new poll suggests. A Leger poll, which sampled more than 1,500 Canadian adults from April 29th to May 1st, suggests that 90% of people think false information or misinformation had a major impact on the election. My friends, more of this stuff gets posted, more of this stuff gets published, and more things like this gain traction. This Liberal government is going to have their reasoning, is going to have the backing from the people that they need in order to bring in censorship laws to quell misinformation.
Yeah, there we go. Bill C-63.
As I said, keep an eye out for this type of stuff. But it was fascinating, again, the talking points that Carney hit on, that even CBC were like, huh? This is kind of weird.
Rosie, a lot there.
But I mean, that might have been the throne speech, actually.
It might have been less flowery.
Yeah.
It was very economical, but it kind of boils down to acts attack, stop the crime, build the homes, and fix the budget. When you look at a lot of the core priorities, it's an interesting shift in this Liberal government stance.
Even CBC, David Cochrane acknowledges that Carney just spoke on all the core aspects of Poilievre's campaign and what he was going to do. And now he's going to claim that he's going to do it. We know, look at a lot of high-level skepticism, especially when this man talked about how he supported and actually advocated even more of a clampdown of the Emergencies Act on the protesters of the convoy in 2022. And even when he talked about the freedom of speech, we know he doesn't actually believe in this stuff. So where is he actually going? And that, my friends, is what we're going to keep a close eye on. Enjoy your Saturday. I'm going to enjoy watching my Halifax Thunderbirds take on Saskatchewan lacrosse tonight.
You know what it reminds me? Like, other than stealing the other person's ideas and plans, the whole speech kind of reminded me Donald Trump if he was without emotions. Like, he has these ideas, but he's vague on explanation. Like, he doesn't go into the details. But with Donald Trump, the big difference is that you know he's gonna do it for the best interest of American people. Like, you have that feeling from him. You know he's patriotic. You know that he's in there for people, for US. And you had the same feeling from Pierre Poilievre. But with Mark Carney, I still can't shake that feeling that he acts in his own best interest. And it was like this the whole campaign, and it's like this now. And just 10 years with Liberals, like, can you really say that they did something for Canadian people to make their lives better, to improve the quality of life? Not really. Like, you have Bill C-69 that pretty much screwed our economy, because we could have been so rich, one of the richest countries, but Bill C-69 blocked everything, right? Blocked new pipelines, mines, everything. And then you have carbon tax that we had it for God knows how many years. Like, why? And we still have the industrial carbon tax. Like, why? It's proven that net zero, or at least if Canada reaches net zero, it's not going to change much worldwide. And we have such a good regulations that we're not really the issue. And the way they brought the carbon tax, like, I'm sorry, it was BS all along. Like, what, you're going to take money from people, so I'm going to pay more on taxes because I'm heating with natural gas, even though I don't really have other choice. I'm driving the fossil fuel car because, again, I don't really have another choice. I don't have money for EV, right? Also, just creating the lithium batteries, it's not really net zero either, right? It's not good for environment either. But that's a different topic. And so you're gonna collect more money from me, then you're gonna do some kind of average and do rebates. So I'm not even gonna get everything I paid, which I guess in the case of the taxes you don't even expect it, right? But where's the carbon tax money going? Is it going towards like green infrastructure or green energy infrastructure? Because I didn't see anything like that in Alberta. And also, if you want to fund all of this green energy by just tax money, it's going to take years. Not years, like that's going to take decades to build just few plants. Like you're not going to switch from fossil fuels to green energy that you're going to fund by taxpayers' money. That's just ridiculous. And my idea about this is obviously green energy is good, but why don't we use oil and gas we have right now, up the production, make all of these new trade deals, and let's say for 20 years we're gonna go really hard, make our country rich and everything, and 10%, 20% of all of that profit, of that extra profit, we can invest into the green energy and slowly transfer, while people will have a good lives, and eventually we're gonna reach that net zero. Like you're not gonna reach it with carbon tax money. It's just ridiculous. But no, like this sounds good. Like what Mark Carney said sounds good. But like I said, I don't trust him, and I don't think Canadians should trust him. And I don't think he gave us a reason to trust him. Like, look, he has 3 passports. He has assets that he did not disclose. He has money stashed in Bermuda just to avoid the taxes, which for Prime Minister of Canada is kind of ridiculous. So I don't really think he gave us a reason to trust him. So like the host of the Elevate podcast said, don't sleep on it. Like don't let him calm you down. Just stay alert, because there's gonna be something going on behind the scene, and he's gonna try to make it in his own best interest again, or at least not in the best interest of Canadians.